Morning, folks. Hopefully everybody is ready for breakfast with the coach. So we're just waiting for you guys to come on board. I don't see anybody yet, but hopefully we're getting there. So I'll wait for you guys, and yeah, then we'll get going. So let me know when you're available. And I don't see anybody on board yet, so maybe it's a little bit early. So there we go. 3 or 4 people coming on board. Let me know you're out there. Throw some thumbs across the screen or say hello, or oh, now we're jumping up. Okay, good. So all right, I got a couple things to bring to you guys, and then I'm going to answer your questions as usual. So glad to see you're out there. Hopefully you see and hear me just fine. Which reminds me, I didn't plug in my headphones, so I'll get that going, and then we'll get started. So just give me a second here, and plug that in, and then we'll get going. So and he's back. All right. Morning, folks. Good to see some people getting on board. Okay. Right. Can everybody see and hear me okay now? Everybody hear me okay? It's 5 a.m. here, actually. So I get up at 4 most days of the week, and I actually get up at 3 a.m. on Sundays, Tony, so that I can enjoy some coffee and quiet time before I get down here for you guys. So yeah. So I start out today on a personal note. So if you'll indulge me for 3 or 4 seconds and put your hands over your ears, because I probably have the worst singing voice in the world. But on a personal note, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to KB. Happy birthday to you. All my regulars will know who that is. So hopefully you had a good one. And let's get on with the topics at hand. So I've got my my study on my desktop here. So I'm going to be turning my head a little bit. I wanted to read you a study that was sent to me. Appreciate people who are sending me studies to comment on. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. But this one is relevant. So yeah, I put in my notice for today that we would be talking about the futility of cardio for fat loss, which I have talked about in past episodes, and I've given you all kinds of studies that show that for fat loss, cardio is pretty much a waste of time, or at least way down the list of priorities unless you're extremely overweight. So some new studies just keep corroborating that fact. So I want to read you from this study and some takeaways that you should notice, and then I'll get on to your questions. So and then, of course, I will put this link in the notes after I post the live session. So that's the title of the article is "Your 7-Minute Workout Sucks," which is a good, catchy title because you see all these infomercials on TV where you can train 20 minutes 3 times a week and get all the results you've ever wanted, and which means I've been doing something wrong for decades, training 5 or 6 days a week. I guess I'm not the expert. I think I am. But this is all the marketing nonsense that's out there, the 4-minute workout, the 4-hour work week, all of these other kinds of things. So so let me just read, and then I'll get to the points that you need to know, and we'll get on to that. So it says, a new study suggests high-intensity intervals are not magic. Among the people at your gym spinning their wheels on the cardio machines, there's always that one loud, sweaty psychopath. He sets the treadmill to maximum speed, pounds out some sprints for 20 seconds, rests, and then repeats. Or she's a bullet from a gun on a spin bike or elliptical, flailing arms and legs, ponytail, until after 30 seconds where she reloads and repeats. Hardcore gym goers love this method of sprint and stop training. high intensity intervals and fitness gurus claim it has unique benefits over steady state cardio. But a new study suggests this is not so. So all your HIIT personal trainer advocates out there, tell them to shut the F up and learn something, all right? Here we go. High-intensity interval cardio doesn't burn any more fat than traditional cardio, according to a new research in Obesity Review. That's a periodical, all right? That's what scientists determined after they analyzed 31 different studies on the topic and found the two methods result in the exact same fat loss. This goes against the long-standing notion. Hang on to your comments, folks. Okay, 31 studies and found the two methods result in exactly the same fat loss. This goes against the long-standing notion that HIIT may burn more fat, in part because what scientists call excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, also known as EPOC, a phenomenon where your body uses extra energy long after your workout to restore your body from harder efforts. All right. The scientists compared 3 different methods. Steady-state cardio, done for 20 to 60 minutes at about 65% of maximum effort. High-intensity interval training, cardio in 1 to 4 minute spurts at about 80% max effort. And sprint intervals, done in 8 to 30 second bursts of all-out effort. When the scientists matched methods for how much energy each burned, for example, a 30-minute slower bike ride that burned 500 calories compared to 15 minutes of bike intervals that also burned 500 calories, they discovered participants lost equal amounts of fat. The researchers quoted next, and the researchers, I thought that intervals may confer a slight advantage, but it wasn't terribly shocking that they didn't, says Brad Schoenfield, an exercise researcher at Lehman College. The basis of weight loss is calories in, calories out. So if you're expending a similar amount of energy in an exercise session, you'd figure there would be roughly equal effects on fat loss. Interestingly, neither of the 3 methods resulted in meaningful weight loss according to the researchers. Quote, cardio in general just isn't a great way to lose fat, Schoenfield says. Fat loss is primarily mediated by diet. Eating less is how you can more easily affect large caloric differences. Cardio alone only creates big caloric reductions if you're doing massive amounts of it. Let me read that paragraph again, please. Interestingly, neither of these 3 methods of cardio resulted in meaningful weight loss, according to the researchers. End quote. Cardio in general just is not a good way to lose fat, Schoenfield says. Fat loss is primarily mediated by diet. Eating less is how you can more easily affect large caloric differences. Cardio alone only creates big caloric differences if you're doing massive amounts of it. So you have to train longer and longer. I've talked about this forever, and it does nothing, okay, for metabolism, all right? Nothing, unlike weight training. Let me continue. That's not to say you should skip your workout and just eat less. Regular exercise can reduce your health risks, of course, improve your mood, and even help you live longer, according to the Mayo Clinic. A unique benefit of intervals is that they deliver many of the health benefits in less time, according to researchers at McMaster. And research from the National Weight Control Registry shows that 94% of people who have lost more than 30 pounds and kept it off increased their activity. 98% of those people also altered their diet. So you have to pay attention to diet strategy. Pat Davidson, a New York City-based exercise physiologist, worries that people will learn about the new study and use it as a result to avoid uncomfortable exercise. At a certain point, he says, exercise is just a math equation. Most people train just a few hours per week. The one thing we've learned from things like CrossFit, which we don't learn much from that, except what not to do, but one of the things we learned from CrossFit is if you exercise with intensity and you try really, really hard, you will see your body change. As long as the number of calories you're eating stays constant, if you do more work, you see better results. This is what I call increase in work capacity, and that's a whole other argument. So recently, workouts as short as 4 minutes have gained popularity. And this is what I call wish bias, all right? If you are attempting to create a caloric deficit with exercise, that's not going to be enough. All right, let me say that again. If you are attempting to create a caloric deficit with exercise, that probably will not be enough. By sprinting for a total of 4 minutes, for example, a 130-pound woman will burn 93 calories. She'd burn about 350 calories if she ran for 30 minutes. It's often a question of how much time you have. Whatever that number is, just work hard. All right. While this study found that EPOC, effective cardio, to be minimal, as in non-existent, right? Previous research has shown that weightlifting does result in EPOC effect. All right. Something I've been telling you for decades. Might there be a larger afterburn effect doing weight-based intervals compared to classic weightlifting routine? I haven't seen that topic adequately studied, so I can't say, Schoenfield says. Well, I have studied it in the real world, and I can advocate that, yes, it does work. But in theory, I highly doubt it, because the primary effect of resistance training on EPOC is from increased muscle protein remodeling, and there's no evidence weight-based circuit training would have a greater effect than traditional weight routines in general in that regard. So what that is kind of saying is that traditional innervation bodybuilding training is still the King Kong method of leaning out and staying lean and keeping a robust metabolism. If you're an athlete, intervals can help you perform better. This is because of the principle of exercise specificity. And then that's the gist of the study. So what the study is saying, now the study makes a few points that are in error. It's not just calories in, calories out. I've been telling you that also for years. If it was just a linear equation of calories in, calories out, then my cycle diet wouldn't work. It's something I've been following for 30 years and stayed lean, something my protege Andy Sinclair has been following for 13 years and has been doing photo shoots and on the cover of magazines, etc. So it's a little too simplistic to argue that it's a calories in, calories out equation. And in terms of burning fat, the other thing that this study avoids is it doesn't talk about metabolism. Once again, the industry, even in research, tends to stay locked into faulty thinking about burning the body out, how much calories you burn, how much of yourself you exhaust. All right, but we know from Dr. Schwartzbein's research and my own research and other research that optimizing metabolism and tissue building have everything to do also with not just losing weight, but preserving weight loss and sustaining weight loss long term. So once again, this study reinforces stuff, I've been telling you for decades, that cardio is pretty much insignificant as a fat loss indicator. It does nothing for metabolism at all, absolutely nothing. And by extension, what this study shows is interval cardio isn't a whole lot better. So all those boot camp classes where everyone's sweating to the oldies and jumping around and doing burpees endlessly, you're going to burn some calories at first. You're going to get some minimal effects at first, but I haven't seen very many people who have completely transformed their physique by doing boot camp classes. I just haven't seen it, and I've seen a million of them. So again, physique transformation comes from using resistance training, comes from weight training. That's the long and the short of it. So this study even shows that interval training doesn't offer a whole lot more benefit as the industry would like you to believe, as does weight training. So cardio in general, as the study said, right? Let me go down to that paragraph again, and then I'll take your questions. Cardio in general just is not a great way to lose fat. Cardio in general just is not a great way to lose fat, all right? I mean, this is research. This is experience. So all these people, ooh, I'm doing fasted cardio in the morning. Ooh, I'm getting lean. Well, that's the law of diminishing returns. We've shown the NIH, the National Institute of Health, years and years ago when I was doing research on metabolism and my cycle diet, the NIH did a study where they took people and they controlled their environment. They controlled the rooms they were in and the exercises they did. And they took high-level triathletes, all right? And what they found was there was no metabolic benefit to their training. The reason they were relatively lean, now I would say skinny fat, not lean, but the reason they were relatively lean was because of the inordinate number of hours they put in swimming, cycling, and running. So great, if you're retired and you can train 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, then you might, just in terms of caloric math, take weight off and keep it off, but that's not sustainable, all right? Why not train one hour per day, as many days a week as you can, and optimize metabolism at the same time as burning fat? What that NIH study from years and years ago showed was that these world-class level triathletes had the same metabolic profiles as couch potatoes. So they were only lean in comparison and in relation to the hours and hours and hours they put in doing cardio activity. So again, I tell you, quote the research here, cardio in general just is not a great way to lose fat. And yet the myth continues. Ooh, I do cardio first. Ooh, I do fasted cardio first. Oh, good. Well, you're wasting your time on both accounts. So I see all these people at my gym. The first thing they do when they get to the gym is get on the treadmill or the elliptical or whatever. Doesn't warm them up for anything, and it doesn't burn any fat, and it doesn't optimize metabolism. So if you've got limited amounts of minutes and hours to devote to the gym, and you're going there and you're spending 60-70% of that time wasting your time, then why, it's not just the fact that you went to the gym. There's a reason someone like my protege Andy Sinclair sticks out in a crowd. There's a reason at age 56 I stick out in a crowd. We don't waste gym time. We don't just show up and wonder what to do. All right. So, and I see the same thing, hiring personal trainers and they're putting boxing gloves on and punching a bag, and then they're going and bench pressing. It makes no sense at all. There's no flow. There's no programming. You're just in the gym. Oh, I got to burn calories. I have 4 days a week to do it. Wrong thinking. How am I going to optimize metabolism? How am I going to enhance lean tissue? How am I going to support a constructive and healthy metabolic and biochemical profile? Right? That's about tissue building, not burning and tearing down your system, right? So this is the same thing, the same problem with keto diets and all the rest of it. They all function on breaking down body systems, and that's never going to work for long, and it's not going to be sustainable. Furthermore, if people are going to take this stuff about, the interval that I suggested versus the running that burn way more calories, consider this as well. Of all the exercise variations and modalities on the planet, runners are by far the most frequently injured form of exercise. Up to 79 to 80% of people who run as their form of exercise end up hurt, and it's terrible for your feet, terrible for your knees, and really bad for your hip alignment. There's very few people that are actually quote unquote born to run, so you should consider that as well. Everyone is born to use resistance training. So there you go. So now I'll take your questions. Hopefully you found that study useful. I will copy and paste it into the show notes when we're done. So again, yeah, there's a lot of wasted equipment in gyms, Sherry, that's for sure. Useless equipment. But most gyms, here's how it works. In order to get the consumer dollar, what most gyms will do is they'll see what their competitors are doing, and they'll outfit their gym in the same way. So, if the competitor down the street has 10 elliptical machines, then you better have some elliptical machines. If they had treadmills, you better have treadmills. So it's the blind leading the blind. Rather than telling consumers what they should be doing, what people do is, because they need the consumer dollar, is they cater to the faulty consumer mindset because someone walks in off the street and they're looking for cardio equipment. Like I said, when I when I travel all around the world into these hot environments, I go to a hotel gym in a hot environment and there's more cardio equipment. Why? You can walk out on the beach. You can walk outside. Why not outfit that with weights? It's getting better, but it's still pretty bad. So catering to the consumer, the uninformed consumer mindset, is the thinking in the industry. And that's why I would never own a gym, because I don't respond to what consumers think. I tell consumers what to think and what they should know. So again, if you know people out there or your personal trainers are telling people that they better get on the bike to warm up or to do anything, or on the treadmill or on the elliptical, this is a seriously misinformed personal trainer, which is about 80% of them out there. So consider that, folks. Hopefully you benefited from that study. And I don't know if, let me just see if there's any. Yeah, resistance training is definitely the thing. So weight training, and there's just been a return to, and it makes sense, there's been a return to traditional bodybuilding, body part training, all right, unless you're in some kind of sport. And that's especially true if you're over 50. So, yeah, very, very important. So I want to stay on that topic for a minute. Yeah, and if people, yesterday, people saw my Facebook post yesterday. I mean, it's getting a pretty massive return on commentary and reach about more gym training nonsense. And see, this is another trend that's useless in the industry, where personal trainers are trying to stand out by doing funky crap that has no basis in any kind of usefulness. So if you saw that Facebook post I made yesterday with that girl trying to squat standing on top of inverted dumbbells, and she ends up pooping her pants and probably ripping out her adductors, this stuff has to stop. And it's the fault of the certification industry that we're certifying people in all the wrong things. And anything that's easy to acquire isn't worth the paper it's written on. If you can get a certification in a weekend to train at your local Good Life, that's a scam, all right? That's a gimmick, all right? If I have 4+ decades of experience as a professional and as an expert in this industry, you really think you're equally qualified because you answered some multiple choice questions after a weekend workshop and certification? Are you freaking kidding me? But this is what passes out there. So certified does not equal qualified. So, yeah. Let me see what else we got here. So, yeah, I don't know how many of you saw that, but hopefully if you haven't, you can go and take a look at that now. Absolutely ridiculous. So, now I got a question. Generally, how long does it take to feed a metabolism to a good place in terms of average time frame? There is no average, because everyone is the exception. The problem there is trying to fit people into time frames. Oh, this should happen in this many weeks. We see that with transformations and contest approach diets and all the other kind of nonsense out there. What really it takes depends on where the person has been. Someone who's a chronic dieter, up and down, is going to have a chronically suppressed metabolism. And then they're going to have to be fed in a specific way until the biofeedback signs indicate that they're becoming, their metabolism is no longer sluggish, that it's becoming, more and more optimized, right? So we were all born with optimized metabolisms. We just tend to ruin them as life goes on. So it's very, very important as well. So someone says, I'm a 20-minute step mill gal. After my hour 10 of resistance, does that cardio harm me? It doesn't harm you, but it doesn't help you. It's not really. But the good thing there, Mary, is if you're going to do cardio, do it after your training. That makes the most sense. If you want to optimize the minimal fat burning effects that cardio has, then it should be after resistance training, not before. So that's another head scratcher for me at the gyms I go to. The personal trainers have their clients do the opposite. They do their cardio first, and then they do a minimal amount of weight training. That's just, again, I don't know what these certifications are teaching, but they're not teaching the principles of exercise physiology and energy systems. That's for damn sure. So if you'd want to truly learn all those things, sign up for my Program Design Masterclass, programdesignmasterclass.com. I teach all those things. I start with the principles. I start with the energy systems, the aerobic and the anaerobic systems, and then we talk about the essence of program design as well. So, but yeah. Oh, sorry, Moni, not Mary. Sorry, I'm blind without these. Sorry if I said your name wrong. But yeah, if you're gonna do cardio, it should come after resistance training, never before. And fasted cardio is a stupid term. It's a fitness term. Just because you do cardio on an empty stomach doesn't really offer any extra benefits at all, except when you first start doing it. So cardio is the law of diminishing returns. So you got to keep that in mind. All right. So there's a reason I cycle my walks, not just seasonally. But if you want to get the most benefit out of cardio, which studies like this would never attend to because they're academic in structure, and I'm experience-based in structure for decades. I love these guys who call themselves evidence-based trainers. There's no greater evidence than 4 decades of experience, folks, regardless of what academia says. But if you really want to get the most out of some cardio benefit, do something like 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. And yeah, start right again from the beginning. That's when you'll get the most. Because once you're adopted to the aerobic energy pathway, you get better at slowing down fat burning, and you get better at storing fat. That's what fuel efficiency actually is, right? Same thing when you buy a hybrid vehicle to get more gas mileage. It works the exact same way. So that's very, very important as well. So what is my opinion on strength training in general? If you're not so strong, should you take periods to focus on increasing your strength? Just work programs like Met and work the muscle. Sorry, let me just see what that has to say. Oops. Funny on these, I can't see more when well, here's the thing. We have 2 varying paradigms in the industry, which has strength training over here and bodybuilding training over here. Sometimes they intermingle, most of the times they don't. And we have far too many strength experts talking as if they understand physique transformation, and they simply don't. So the age-old mythology of this industry is train for strength and development will come. That's not true. So the reverse is actually true. Train for development and strength will come. And I've proven that over and over again with my innovation training methodology. So training for strength, well, what kind of strength? I mean, we're talking about limit strength, speed strength, starting strength, explosive strength. There are many different kinds of strength. So if you don't understand those things and how they work, which is in my program design masterclass as well, breaking all that down, then how can you say I'm training for strength? Just doing low reps with a lot of rest. I started out my career in a powerlifting gym, and I followed that dogma. It was one of my first lessons, to let sleeping dogmas lie. And all I got was frustrated and hurt. I didn't have the tendon length and thickness to ever be that strong for my size or my weight. But once I abandoned that form of training, it was only a couple of years before the powerlifters themselves were coming up to me for training advice because of how much my physique transformed. So it depends what you mean by strength training. Pure limit strength training, as in low reps and lots of rest between sets, that's not necessary for a lot of people. It might be necessary for some. I have a variance of all kinds of programs that I assign people depending on what their quote-unquote need state is. So you do an assessment. Where is someone at? What do they need? If, for instance, I get a woman who's never lifted weights and all she's been doing is cardio her whole career, you bet I might put her on some low rep strength stuff, bench, squat, deadlift, kettlebell swings, bent rows, things like that, with lots of rest. The problem is a lot of women have been so inundated and imprinted on their minds that they find that kind of training, ooh, I'm not burning calories, ooh, I'm not burning calories. You're right, you're not burning calories, you're building tissue. You're supporting your metabolism. You're looking at a long-term solution. If the old cardio worked, then they wouldn't be coming to me for help to begin with. So a lot of the times it's trying to get people out of the stinking thinking that they've developed, that they think they know something that they truly don't know. So hopefully I answered your question there, Tommy. It was a good question, by the way. Yeah, Monica's saying, why would you pay someone, $80 to $100 an hour to make you step on a machine while they stand by the machine and just make conversations with you. Yeah, I see that in my gym as well, Monica. It makes no sense. Like, I'm watching a personal trainer, the client gets to the gym and then they escort them to the treadmill or the elliptical and they stand there talking for 10 minutes. I'm like, really? You need someone to hold your hand and babysit you through that? Like, I don't get it. I don't get why half of these personal trainers are hired. They make shit up in their head. I watch them training people in exercise sequencing that makes absolutely no sense. Like I said, 1 minute they're running up and down one flight of stairs at my gym. Then they're putting on boxing gloves and punching the air or shadow boxing with 2 clients at once. And then they're running down the stairs again. So it's all this interval nonsense that I just read to you. Doesn't produce much results. So for me, it's not really about the trainer. I feel like walking up to these people that hire them and say, listen, what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Because almost all of them will say they want to look better. Well, you're not going to get there by punching air. So it makes no sense that there's no program design teaching in certification. That baffles my mind. But again, you can go to Program Design Masterclass for more on that. Is it difficult for women to build muscle at 40? I strength train 5 times a week. Well, I doubt that you do strength train 5 times a week because that would be overdoing it. I believe that you resistance train 5 times a week. That's a different thing. Yeah, it is more difficult for women over 40. I explained in my book, The Aging Proposition, and in my book, Physique After 50, there's certain hormonal and biochemical disruptions that happen as we age that is unavoidable. You can get all the cosmetic work you want done on the outside, but it's not going to stop the effects that happen on the inside. But the thing is, it's really the best alternative. So it's really your only choice to build tissue, etc., and to delay the onset effects of sarcopenia, all right, which happens when we age. So very, very important. So no need to apologize to me, whatever that is. Whatever you're apologizing for, that's fine. So, I mean, the other thing, I don't know if you guys saw my live session Tuesday with Krista Louise Fit. I had her on my live Facebook. And again, we just had her go through some very general things, right? And, of course, success leaves clues. So what we saw there was, here's someone who's not even 30 yet, goes to bed at 8:30 every night so she can be at the gym same time every day. So there we go. Regular sleep and wake times, right? I talk about that all the time. And then we asked her about meal times. Regular meal times. I talk about that all the time, right? Does she do cardio? No, hates cardio. Never has done cardio. And yet she's in 2 of my upcoming projects. One released next week, Great Glutes at Home for Women, training glutes with bodyweight circuits. And then up the street, up the road a little bit, we're coming out with the Busy Woman's Train at Home and Diet program, 16 full circuits for busy women who want to train at home with minimal equipment. So we've been shooting that since winter. And that means that, you know, Krista is a lot like Andy, someone who's in shape all the time by following not does it fit your macros and all this other head game kind of crap that none of my clients follow. Simple strategies. What else did we find out from Krista in that live session? Her favorite foods, rice and oatmeal. Oh my God, starch. Oh my God, gluten. I mean, all this nonsense. And yet here's someone who looks enviable to other women. Oh, I'd like to look like her. I bet she doesn't eat any carbs. Well, you bet wrong. You know, so there you go. So I get people to tell these stories and it continually falls on deaf ears. Everyone wants to continually follow a wish bias that there must be some magic. I need to carb backload and I need to intermittent fast and I need to do fasted cardio. If you let go of all those fantasies and practice some reality, you might actually get to where you want to be. So let's keep that in mind as well. So Tony wants to know what's my views on HRT for men over 50. Tony, I've written about it several times, talked about it several times. Check out my book, The Aging Proposition. I believe it's August 2015. August 2015, Tony. If you go to scottabelfitness.com in my blog archives, I wrote a great big long article on HRT for men over 50, and I'm in full support of it. I think we are in an age where we live longer and longer, so why not live better and better if we have the option to? Makes no sense to me. I mean, why would I use a rotary phone if I can have a phone like this? So it makes no sense to just be, if we're going to live longer, why not live better at the same time if the option is available to us? So I'm a big believer in hormone replacement therapy, absolutely. Go in and read my article on that. Maybe I'll send it in somewhere and have someone else write it as well. So Nancy's asking why Diana Schwartzbein says not to eat rice. I don't know. I just know my people eat rice. I eat rice. Krista eats rice. Andy eats rice. Andy eats rice and beans, actually. One of the best combination meals that you could ever eat. So that kind of thing. A lot of times people, and this brings up another point, a lot of times people will write me and say, well, so-and-so said this. What do you make of that? And I take the Fred Hatfield approach on that. I really don't care what so-and-so said. If you want to hear what I have to say, tune in to what I have to say. But I'm not going to spend all my time and expertise analyzing what some other expert has to say, unless it's pertinent to my argument. So, I after 4 decades in this industry, I'm going to focus more on what I know from paying attention for 4 decades. I don't think people understand what level of expertise that gives you. And don't forget, I just haven't been in this industry for 4 decades. I've been at the top of this industry for 4 decades. I had my own column in magazines. I was a feature writer for the magazines. I was a ghost writer for the magazines. I've been a #1 bestseller on Amazon. So I'll trust what I have to say and what experience has taught me over whatever vogue trend is around. That reminds me as well, 2 letters I got this week from doctors thanking me for an article I first wrote in the 90s that I just got attacked for writing. It was called The Benefits of Sodium at the time, and then I kept rewriting it as more and more research came out. But I was that was during the time of sodium being, the blood pressure scare, and you got to avoid sodium and blah, blah, blah. And I came out with an article saying the opposite. If you're working out, you need sodium, and the more the better. And they were just hanging me in effigy everywhere. This week I got letters from 2 different MDs who said they've been following me for decades, thanking me for writing that sodium article way back first in the 90s, and then I think it was 2008 on T-Nation, the updated version. Well, apparently there's a new book out called The Salt Fix, which is all about the benefits of sodium. So, 25 years later, research catches up to me. Those are the kind of things that give me the confidence that, I use experience-based knowledge, and I'll trust in that because my academic background and my experience at the top levels of the game allow me to confidently do so. So I don't need to follow and chase some piece of research here and a piece of research there and then completely change my methods according to whatever vogue trend is in following along in the periodicals. I don't do that. So I let my 4 decades of experience teach me. So let me see. Tony, just give that a read. You'll like that for hormone replacement therapy, and maybe we'll do an upcoming podcast on it. It seems to keep coming up, so maybe we'll do that as well. So Marissa says, sorry, I'm trying to read this without my glasses, guys. So I'm a pending old fart, so be patient with me. Marissa says, I want to eliminate my morning protein powder and stick with real foods, but eggs and veggies for breakfast doesn't keep me as full. Any insights? Austin, Texas. Hello, Austin, Texas. Marissa, anytime you can get away from powders, protein powders, they're marketed and sold as engineered foods, but what they really are is processed. If it's made in a factory, it's not food. So I think, again, we talked when we had Krista on live on Tuesday. What she said? She wakes up and pretty much goes right to the gym, but she has a small bowl of oatmeal first and maybe a coffee or half a coffee. So you can either get used to training on an empty stomach, or you can just find foods that satisfy. Maybe a banana, some soft fruit that are easy to eat. things like that. Very, 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 very good. Anything is better than powdered food. Get away from that as much as you can, folks. There's no such thing as a healthy bar. Cliff bars, Lara bars, it's just junk food, packaged and presented as being quote unquote healthy. So, yeah. So Perry says 2 thumbs up for the Physique After 50 and Hard Gainer programs. In the second year following Hard Gainer, he's 57, and he still gets compliments from total strangers. Yeah. I can relate to that, Perry. Every so often I still get asked for pictures for some reason, which is very weird at age 56. But and Perry also wrote an article that's on my blog site, folks, about what's the name of that article, Perry? You can write that in for me. Something about being a perennial plate head, which I kind of liked. So yeah, that's good. Any bars are no good. So it doesn't really... I don't care what the name on the bar is. Cliff Bar, Kind Bar, Lara Bar. It really doesn't matter. It's crap. So, if you can eat food, eat food. And I don't know why in this day and age we can't eat food. We have an abundance of it everywhere. So another option for in protein replacement would be unsalted roasted nuts of some kind, or unsalted, not unsalted, or some natural nut butters. A tablespoon of cashew butter or almond butter on your way to the gym. Something that satisfies, can hold you over, that kind of thing. So, that kind of thing is always good. So, that's another thing as well. So keep that in mind. And just to get on another topic for a second, I was thinking of nuts are life. Okay, well, there's some more questions coming in. Can you make consistent muscle gains using the cycle diet? Even with lower calories? Of course, Lee, you can. That's the whole basis of how I developed the cycle diet way back in the 80s, was from the world. The first thing I say in the cycle diet course, and that's thecycle.diet, not .com. The cycle, one word, .diet. You can take the course or read the book. But one of the things I said, in that is when I consistently experimented with the cycle diet, was, over the course of a year, every time people would see me at contests or whatever, be like, man, you look even better than last time. Like, holy crap. So yeah, as long as you're in true supercompensation mode, which is a cycle diet term, and you've optimized your metabolism, then absolutely you can gain muscle while using the cycle diet. Maybe not as fast. You should have some muscle there to begin with, but that's important as well. So, and just to reiterate above that, Lily said nuts are life. Yeah, nuts are pretty satiating, good foods for sure. So that's very, very important as well. So things to consider as well. There's Andreas. I often talk about routine and regular meal patterns along with sleep, which aligns some new studies confirming. Yeah, I'm going to be using those studies in probably the next podcast, Andrea. So, I have that study that you sent me, and I'll probably use that in the next Breakfast with the Coach. So, Sam writes, any experience with people who have suffered golfer's elbow from training and how they've Of course, I have experience. In 4 decades, Sam, there isn't a whole lot I haven't experienced. So a lot of people will write me, oh, do you have any experience in this? Do you have any experience in that? Oh, I'm taking fertility treatment. Do you know anything about it? Of course, 4 decades, you deal with everything. So golfer's elbow is just what we call medial epicondylitis. Tennis elbow is what we call lateral epicondylitis. And these are overuse injuries. So it's basically about backing off what causes the injuries and then doing some counter work, which basically means choosing exercises that don't aggravate the area. It's not really rocket science to work around chronic conditions like that. So they're just called workarounds. You never work through an injury or a chronic condition, you work around it. So of course that's minor. That's a minor thing to epicondylitis. That's not a big thing at all. So very, very important. So one of the other things before we get too far down, there's just a pause in questions and stuff. This is, as much as in life we do or have to do things for other people, or we want to do things for other people, this is not one of those areas where that applies. All right, and you need to accept and embrace that fact. Don't ever think that you're going to lose weight for someone else, all right? You're going to re-sculpt your body for someone else. You're going to do this for someone else. That's a lie you tell yourself. If you're not truly doing this for yourself, feel better, look better, function better, be better, get better, it's not going to last. So if someone's pressuring you, usually a spouse, unfortunately, usually a male spouse on a female spouse who's gained a lot of weight over the course of their relationship, that kind of pressure is never going to work. And thinking you're going to do it for someone else, you're just going to end up resenting that someone else. And it's not a good motivator. I mean, it's just not a good motivator. So quality of mindset determines quality of behavior. You've got to do this for you. And you've got to accept that you're doing this for you. Forget all the other excuses. Those are just added benefits. You want to be there for your grandkids. You want to be there for your kids, blah, blah, blah. Those are fine, but they're collateral motivators. They can't be the foundational motivators, or you're never going to make it. Do it for yourself and be real about it. So that means you also got to be real and consistent about the process that's involved. So you can't do it only when you feel like doing it, and you can't do it only when it's convenient for you to do it. The world is full of people who have got halfway to somewhere with halfway measures. So, again, I talk about reality, and it's all about reality for me. So those are the real principles, and you have to operate on reality's terms, not on the terms you want reality to be. And you can't mold reality to your terms. Oh, I only have, there's so many people. The reason that Bowflex and Bow Climbers and all these other nonsensical things can advertise just 3 times a week for 15 minutes at a time, and then show models who I can guarantee you don't train that way, is because it appeals to people's wish bias. And you think you can bend reality to meet your own terms, to meet the way you want things to be. You want it that you can eat protein shakes and convenience bars and work out 3 days a week. Okay, well, that's not how I function and eat and train at age 56 almost, 6 days a week. It's not how Andy does it as a cover model, fitness model. It's not how Krista does it. So again, you got to work with reality on reality's terms, and you're never going to change that, all right? The wannabe new up-and-coming internet experts out there, all right, here's the difference between a true expert and a wannabe. The wannabes think they can reinvent the wheel. The true expert just wants to make a better wheel. So keep that in mind, folks. That's a real dividing line. The wannabe who thinks they can reinvent the wheel, that's that twit that you saw on my Facebook post yesterday that probably ripped that girl's adductors apart. All right? And why they thought that was worthy of putting on video was another question. That you're so stupid that you think this is groundbreaking training, all right, when you could have risked a lot worse damage than probably happened. Again, real experts aren't trying to reinvent the wheel. They're just all about making a more efficient wheel. So that's very, very important, all right? So Tony says, in 2008, after reading your article on hypervitaminosis, yes, that's true. That's a term. You were saying you can't remember the term. I threw out all my joint supplements in a bin, abandoned my strength type training, and followed you. Appreciate that, Tony. I remember you as a client. So hypervitaminosis is a very real term. We get all these tree hugger wannabes in this industry who think they can supplement their way to wellness, and they think they've been sold on the notion that our bodies aren't wise enough and that we need all these supplements. And so I wrote a big article on hypervitaminosis and how even something as simple as a multivitamin can cause way more harm and ill health than not taking. So if you're a person who eats healthily and you choose healthy whole foods predominantly, there's no need for supplements of any kind. And then as soon as I say that on every show or article, I get the yeah buts over and over again. Listen, do what you want to do, but at least don't just read it. Just don't believe everything you read, and don't read everything you believe, because that just is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that makes no sense at all. So so that makes So yeah, that hypervitaminosis we can talk about another time, Tony. Thanks for bringing it up. But there's no need for supplements. And in that article, I believe I mentioned as well, with my advanced osteoarthritis, the osteopath was sort of out of options other than replacing my shoulders, which would have meant no real weight training ever again, as most people back then that got shoulder replacements were in their 80s. And the thing was, as soon as I got off fish oils, within 2 weeks, I had way less pain and way more functionality. So that led me to writing an article about there's something fishy about fish oils. So you can look for that on my blog archives as well, or it's in one of my books. So yeah, I like table salt. Sorry, I was just reading a comment there. Yeah, salt. Sodium is sodium at this point. You don't need magic pink Himalayan salt. Table salt will be just fine, all things considered, unless you have a medical reason not to. And more people think they have a medical reason than an actual diagnosed one. Ian says, I have a friend who, when diet and training is discussed, they have an excuse why they cannot start doing these things. Have you had a client that presented you with this mindset strategy? Of course. Listen, of course you get people with the yeah buts and the excuses. That's why I charge so much for coaching up front, because I'm not going to let someone waste my time if they reconsider it 2 or 3 weeks into it. At least my valuable time, which I value immensely, has been compensated for. So by the time people make that decision with me, Ian, they've already parted with a substantial amount of money, and that reflects to me their level of seriousness, at least at the time of signing up. So, if someone's looking to price point when they're considering coaching, I don't want that client anyway. I want someone who understands what expertise is and acknowledges it and is able to appreciate 4 decades of experience and what that's led to, writing 20 books and producing all the champions and leading by example. I want people who can acknowledge, know, and respect that as clients. I don't want people who are looking to for the cheapest deal they can get as an online coach. Good, you go look for them and you go find them and you get what you pay for. And I'm happy with that. So, that's fine with me. Lily says, how long your workout program before changing it? That depends on how great the workout program is structured, Lily. I talk about that a lot in my program design masterclass as well. Program design, a well-constructed program design can last anywhere like 12 to 16 weeks is usually how I design them. But even that might vary a little bit depending on the actual client that I'm working with. So that's important as well. Jason says, Jason, your name looks familiar. I know you from somewhere. I have a friend who has gotten herself a nutritionist, which has been wonderful in teaching her how to eat healthy, real food, but not let her eat carbohydrates after she eats dinner. Jeez, where does this crap come from? I'm trying to click the see more button. Is there any logic to that? No, there's no logic to that. It's calories balanced throughout the day that matters, all right? I don't know why people seem to think it's a meal-to-meal thing. That only applies in the meal-to-meal thing over the course of a week. So that's very, very important as well. So I wonder how much... sometimes these nutritionists are academically informed, but not with a whole lot of real-world experience. So, you have to take that with a grain of salt as well, pun intended. So good question, though, Jason. I thought you were going to write something else. Because it's that time of year now, folks, where the contests are starting to be over with, and I deal with all these letters, especially from ladies who have completely screwed themselves up for the wonders of 10 minutes on stage in a bikini and, $1,000 bikini, is there such a thing, and high heels, so, and now they're suffering the damage that's produced. So it's that time of year, that all starts happening as well. So I thought you were going to go there with that there for a minute there, Jason, but I'm glad it's just something that simple. Listen, if she's eating better, though, Jason, then let's take the pluses with the minuses, right? I don't want to totally say, oh, that nutritionist doesn't know crap. If it's something as minor as a simple mistake as not eating carbs after dinner, but she's eating better than she would before, and she recognizes and acknowledges what healthy whole foods are, then that's a plus across the board. So that's a good thing too. So, try to balance out the good with the bad there. Yeah, a good question there. Thoughts on drinking diet sodas moderately? I'm a big fan. And yes, I know a couple months ago the research came out on, diet sodas are associated with people who gain a lot of weight. Well, they're also associated with people who don't gain a lot of weight. These are the problems with studies like this that correlate, but they don't study, opposite populations. So a lot of the times the studies have to be broken down. Even in the study I presented to you here, there was some faulty stuff in there, like I mentioned, like being too simplistic about calories in, calories out. That we know that that's not necessarily the truth anymore. It's about qualities of calories as well. So we know there's a difference. That 100 calories from a Twinkie is not the same as 100 calories from an apple. So we know that those things matter. So it's not just about reality math. It's not just about the math of caloric equivalence. So, and Moni B, is that your name? Sorry. Being there, done that, 10 minutes on stage and 3 years to climb back out of the rebound hole in hell and get back to balance. Yep, life is full of lessons. So I'm glad you got out of it, Moni, because a lot of people don't. I have often said, even this year, I found myself saying a lot just from the girls I saw at the gym who were obviously about to compete, and you don't see them anymore now because doing their fasted cardio at the time of day I go because contests are over. But I remember I said to a few people, the worst thing that could happen to that specific person is that they do well in the contest, because then they're going to want to do another one. And I could tell just by looking at them, they were already in harm's way. And if they did well, they would continue to do another one, and that would just make things even worse down the road. But people don't have a far-sighted mindset anymore. They don't look down the road. They like the attention they get right now for 16 weeks of dieting. But, I'm not all about what you can put your body through and not sustain. I'm all about what your body, I think what's more marvelous and what's more, what we should be more appreciative of and more respectful of is the people like Andy and Krista who are like that all year long, right? They don't have to kill themselves for 6 months for a photo shoot. Andy just got back from Vegas for a 3-day photo shoot because he's in shape all year long. Krista in shape all year long. Why not respect that more than someone who kills themselves for something they can never hold on to? That just doesn't make any sense to me, that we glorify this short term and we call it some big accomplishment, and then 4 months later they're 30 pounds heavier. The kudos should go to people like Krista and Andy who are hanging and banging and have figured it out and can stay in shape all year long, right? I mean, that's what we should be taking notes on. Not these. Any monkey can starve somebody into submission. That doesn't, that doesn't equate with me as an accomplishment. I just know what hell is down the road for them, and that's too bad. Chris says he really enjoyed podcast 59. I hope, folks, you're on my podcast, Smarter Sculpted Physique, on iTunes and other places. And Chris is just saying he likes hearing the old stories from the old days. I'll try to add them in when I can. I know this week we're having JC Santana back on, which you probably won't get for a few weeks when we release the podcast, but I love having him on. That's a high energy guy. We think alike. We believe in the same, we believe in the same approach of mindset and things like that. And, he's also a Platinum Club member, and he's just done a world tour. So I'm looking forward to having him on, sharing some of his stories, and I'll share some of mine as well. So any benefits of running stairs? Lots of benefits to running stairs if they're done right. Again, the problem is not running them to exhaustion. One of the ways my people stood out when I trained competitors is the way I had them do stairs, and it was kind of like a top secret thing. And at the time, on stage, way back in the 80s and early 90s, it was only my people who had ripped glutes from the back and from the side, and no one could figure out how I was accomplishing that with all different types of competitors, male, female, tall, short, and it was the way I had them do stairs. And I'll save that for another time because we're running out of time, Ziggy. But that's an excellent question. So yeah, folks. I've referred to a lot there. Thecycle.diet. If you want to take the course on the cycle diet. The hard gainer solution that we have coming to you soon. This week we're releasing Great Glutes at Home for women. That's body weight glute circuit training for women to tighten and tone, shape and sculpt, and round the glutes. What else did I mention? Of course, my Abel approach book. One of the things we talked about, and also my program design masterclass. It's really imperative that people start learning the principles so we don't see moron personal trainers like I posted yesterday. Boy, that aggravates me, having to witness nonsense like that. Not just witness it, but have some moron think that he was discovering something so important he had to put it on video. I mean, and his client ends up pooping her pants, like not to mention whatever other injuries amounted from that. So check that out. It's a real shame that this is what the industry's coming to. Who can attract viewers on YouTube and stuff with insanity. Again, it's the non-sexy stuff that yields the most results, but no one wants to hear it, right? They want to hear, stand on a Bosu ball on one leg with a cone on your head and, let someone throw a ball at you, and blink 5 times while you're doing a curl, and that'll be knowledge next week because they heard it here. So that's very, very important. So, no, I don't see the sport of Tony's asking a question about bodybuilding, quote unquote sport of bodybuilding. No, I don't see it as that in any way, shape, or form in the future. It's actually becoming more and more of a subculture, Tony, and the cult. I mean by that, cult and subculture. There's nothing there's nothing worthwhile in becoming a member of that subculture. You become exposed to all kinds of drugs, even if you're natural. You end up with having to take drugs to sleep and drugs to wake up and drugs, adrenal drugs to burn fat. And it's just, it's a world, prevention is better than cure. It's a world you better not get involved with rather than be involved with and try to erase yourself from later. So, yeah. So, yeah, Sherry, a good point about that video, releasing the video afterward is this. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't get it. And let's just leave it at that. So, folks, that went really fast. Thanks for coming out. Breakfast with the Coach. We had looks like we had more viewers, and we also had great questions. Love when you bring it, folks. Love when you bring the questions. I will post that article when I post this. And thanks for coming out. Happy birthday to Ange in Australia. Hopefully, you'll all join me with some hearts and thumbs. For Ange, a long way away, so it's the end of her birthday actually, but it's the beginning of her birthday here because of time change and all that stuff. So I'm glad I live in an era when we live in a global. Oh, you should see all the hearts and thumbs for you, Ange. People loving you out there, so that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad we live in a global marketplace where I can have people from all over the world come here and stuff. So everyone's just sharing their kudos to you here, Ange. So yeah. So again, if you can leave that question till next week. People are throwing in questions now, but you're gonna have to leave until next week, folks, because my time's exhausted. The sun is up, and I'm gonna go for my greet the morning walk and send Ange a happy birthday wish. And yeah, I hope you all benefited from the discussion and great questions. That helps me have a good discussion when you guys ask such great, thought-provoking questions. So another episode of Sunday Breakfast with the Coach. I hope to see you all next week. Tell your friends, tell people you know online. If they can handle some hard truth, this is the place to be. If they want wish bias about magical protein bars and supplements that'll get them there faster, this is not the place for them to be. So all the best, folks. We will see you next week, and happy birthday, KB baby.